Friends, have you ever heard of luxurious Arabian parties, where behind one closed door things can happen that make your blood run cold? Imagine unbelievably beautiful penthouses, skyscraper pools, expensive champagne flowing, and then whispers of strange rituals and disappearing girls. Sounds like a wild urban legend, doesn't it? But right now we're going to break down the story of Maria Kovalchuk, a model who was recently found in a completely creepy state after traveling to one of these parties. Maria survived, but everything she told us is like a nightmare movie. They say this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are accounts of secret rituals, sacrifices, and a string of mysterious deaths of girls also invited to Arab sheiks. How is this possible in this day and age, when everything seems to be controlled by cameras and social media? Who is behind these closed-door events? And most importantly, what really happens to the girls who get there? Sit back, because this story just gets darker and darker. Maria Kovalchuk is a 24-year-old model who came to conquer the capital. According to her friends, she has always been ambitious, loved beautiful life, fashion shows, partying in elite clubs. You cannot call her a superstar of the catwalk. She only made her way into show business. But Maria had external data and persistence. So many thought that she had a successful career ahead of her. Over the past year in social networks, Maria began to flash expensive hotels, yachts, trips to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Friends noticed that she began to communicate with rich men from somewhere in the East. Maria herself did not spread much. Said something vague like, "There are acquaintances, called to work as a model at events. They say that the fees are large, the conditions are luxurious." Someone envied her, someone poured questions, whether there are no pitfalls. But she only laughed, "Guys, it's okay, it's normal practice, to ride on the elite promotional parties." And indeed, many models were offered to just come and grace the event. Sometimes serious money was paid for this. But few people think that sometimes behind the colorful facade is a completely different world. The term Arab parties has long been floating around on the sidelines of the modeling business. These are closed parties where the main guests are wealthy people from Middle Eastern countries. Businessmen, crown princes, sheiks, sometimes just very rich characters about whom little is known. It is believed that they organize such events in Europe and Russia, wanting to have a great vacation and surround themselves with beautiful girls. At first everything looks harmless. Luxurious locations, buffet, dancers, show program. Models are offered fees, just for coming and being guests. But the more closed evening, the more often there are rumors of harsh treatment, pressure on the girls, and sometimes about crime. Occasionally there is information about incomprehensible rituals, where animals are sacrificed, and allegedly it all happens under the guise of exotic entertainment. To many people these stories seem like fiction, but some models frankly say, where there is a lot of money, there are often no boundaries. Maria Kovalchuk apparently started going to such parties about 6 months ago. Each time her stories became shorter and shorter, as if she was trying to shine less, although her fees were obviously growing. The last such trip was almost fatal for her. According to the memories of friends, about a week before the incident, Maria flew to Dubai, ostensibly for a 3-day promo shooting. She promised to return with a bunch of new contracts and a mountain of photos. But a week passed, no frame in social networks. Maria stopped answering messages. Her phone was then turned off, then issued a short, "Hello, I'm busy." As it will later become known from her correspondence, recovered by the police, in Dubai organized another secret party, where Maria and several other girls were promised huge money for work on a private yacht party. But in fact they were invited to a closed villa on the outskirts of the city, where they were arranged, to put it mildly, not the most standard entertainment program. Some witnesses then talked about creepy rituals, bloody rites involving animals, and about forcing the girls to violent actions in order to amuse important guests. It is quite possible that Maria saw something out of the ordinary and decided to flee. Or, alternatively, resisted participating in it. Whatever the case, a few days later it turned out that she had cancelled her return ticket and her friends and agency could not contact her. 3 weeks after leaving for Dubai, Maria showed up in her hometown in a shocking condition. She was found by a cab driver early in the morning in a deserted area near the old terminal. She had wounds all over her body, numerous bruises and burns on her arms. She could barely walk. She was feverish. The cab driver took her to the hospital, where the doctors were stunned by the severity of the beatings. The police, of course, were curious. What had happened? Maria herself was almost silent for the first few days. She was either under tranquilizers or under shock. But then she slowly began to testify. I was taken to some mansion. It wasn't fun. It was a nightmare. There were strange people there. They did a lot of horrible things. She interrupted, crying, saying she was afraid for her life. Then she mentioned a goat sacrifice and an incomprehensible ritual. According to her, in addition to animals, there were almost girls to be sacrificed. It may sound wild and unrealistic, but that's how she described it. According to her, after she tried to escape, she was beaten and locked up, and a few days later she was sent under escort on a plane home, where she was dumped near the airport, apparently believing that she would not be able to tell anything concrete. While the police were sorting out how and what happened, even more frightening information surfaced. It turned out that Maria had been in contact with many models who also traveled to Dubai for similar parties. Two of them, Diana and Sonia, had been missing for months. One of them was last in contact with Mariah, sending voice messages. "Mash, I can't hear, help. It's hell. They are doing terrible things. I saw someone being taken to the basement and there were screams." After that, Diana disappeared. Sonia's body was found in the river a month later, and the circumstances of her death were unclear. The forensic report said, death by drowning, but relatives are sure that she was murdered. The police had been pursuing these cases without much success. No threads, no leads, because a lot of things happened outside the country. Now it turned out that the list could be longer. Journalists began to pull up archives and came up with 5 or 6 cases of death/disappearances of young girls who suddenly went abroad for a private event and then disappeared. Everything indicated that there was some group luring models to Arab countries for wild orgies and rituals. And if a girl didn't agree or saw something, she was dealt with. Under the cover of night and under the fluctuating light of candles, rituals were organized that could not be called other than savage. According to surviving participants, in separate rooms of these luxurious mansions, real rituals of sacrifice took place. At first it was gruesome scenes with animals, rams, goats, which were sacrificed while the guests laughed and raised their glasses, considering it all exotic and a show for the chosen ones. But some of the girls had a strong feeling that under the guise of an ancient Arab tradition, the sheiks were displaying far more sinister desires, testing to what degree of violence they could reach. According to witnesses, these rituals were controlled by a group of people connected directly to several powerful and wealthy men from the Gulf. Allegedly, they have a secret agreement. No phones or cameras. The girls sign a non-disclosure agreement. In exchange, they are promised crazy fees and a royal vacation. But in fact, what awaited them was not just dangerous leisure, but dark rituals and violent acts. Someone told about the rooms where girls were forced to drink incomprehensible mixtures under the loud music of guests, and then forced to be present at the blood and screams of animals. And sometimes, to the great horror, at violence against the girls themselves. The guards at these parties were strictly enforced to make sure that no one left the event early. Those who tried to escape would run into armed men in the hallways. Other models who were lured in this way admitted that they endured this hell only because they realized that if they resisted, they might not come home. Maria Kovalchuk, according to her acquaintances, once already saw something terrible at such a party, but then she managed to get away without serious consequences, apart from traumas and bruises. Perhaps she was saved by the fact that she was one of the newcomers and kept a low profile. But after some time she again agreed to the proposal, allegedly tempted by the amount of money that could be paid in cash for the evening. The girl was told, "You have everything under control, just be beautiful and smile." However, as she later told a friend, this time among the guests was a certain Sheikh Abu Khalid, known in a small circle for his cruelty and frightening quirks. The friend, to whom Maria managed to write several messages, says that at some point there was really arranged a kind of ritual scene with music, live and already set up for sacrifice animals, and girls, including Maria, almost forced to be near, watch and participate in this show. This ceremony lasted for several hours, and when the main show was over, the guests were taken to different rooms. Maria realized that things were taking a much darker turn. Several friends she knew had disappeared. Guards in black suits pushed the crying girls deeper into the corridors. Maria tried to resist and demanded to be released, but according to her own words, told later to the police, she was punched and then woke up in a small room where she was interrogated by Mahmoud al-Duwari, the alleged mastermind of such parties. He shouted, "You've seen too much and you might blab. Keep quiet and we'll let you live." Maria then decided that the only way to survive was to pretend to be submissive and agree to all conditions just to get out of this place. A few days later, she somehow managed to contact people outside the villa, but was caught. The next hours she described as a living hell. She was beaten, electroshocked, and then, apparently, decided that it was better to get rid of her completely. According to the official version, Maria was given tranquilizers, put on a plane, and already at home in her hometown, unknown people threw the girl out of the car on the outskirts. Either one of the organizers was ashamed to kill her on the territory of another country, or they hoped that she herself would die from injuries. Whatever the case, one morning passers-by found her almost unconscious. Maria had broken ribs, broken wrists, multiple bruises and burns. Later, an expert examination would show that some of the injuries were caused by blows with a heavy blunt object. In the hospital, Maria could not speak for a long time, and when she finally came to herself, the police sat wide-eyed, listening to her story. They recorded every word, about those rites, about the bloody rituals, about the sheiks, who, apparently, the law does not right. But there was a serious problem. Maria had no clear evidence except for the gruesome marks on her body and a few vague photos on her phone, taken in a hurry. She named Sheikh Abu Khalid, Mahmoud al-Duwari, and others. However, all of these people seemed to have enormous influence. An investigation was launched, but people from the agency, through which she was hired, claimed to know nothing. The Arab side remained silent, and most of the girls who could corroborate her story were themselves afraid for their lives. Later it was added to the case that a week before the tragedy, Maria's friend, also a model, who went to the same mansion, disappeared. She was never found. There was talk that she became a victim of one of the ritual shows, but there is no reliable information to this day. After learning about the disappearance of her friend, Maria allegedly decided to flee. It was then, probably, that she signed her own verdict. For influential sheiks, a girl who does not want to play by their rules is a burden, which is easier to eliminate. In the meantime, the case of Maria Kovalchuk caused a public outcry, though mostly in social networks and on independent internet portals. The major media covered it modestly, because references to high-ranking Arab guests raised too many questions. Some bloggers posted clips suggesting that these parties were financed by big oil tycoons, for whom entertainment and violence have long been conflated. Officials have declined to comment until the investigation is complete. But people close to the case whispered, "Forget it, there's so much money there that no one would want to get involved with them." Maria herself, despite the horrific beatings, survived. But physical rehabilitation took many months. Her fractures were not healing well and she had to undergo several surgeries. The psychological shock was no less. Only strong drugs saved her from panic attacks. Doctors said that emotions and memories would haunt her for a long time, if not for the rest of her life. At the same time, Maria continued to be pressured by unknown people. They threatened her that if she went to court and named specific names, she would not survive the next meeting with them. Nevertheless, she testified officially. Alas, when it came to specific individuals, everything came to a standstill. Maria's memories of those days are too fuzzy. The police received only circumstantial evidence. Correspondence in her phone, a few strange photos with bloody objects, names alias of sheiks. But each time, the investigation came up with a circle of suspicious middlemen, and that was it. The real masters of these bloody parties remained in the shadows. None of them, of course, did not officially appear before the investigators. Lawyers, trying to help Maria, only spread their hands. "We are dealing with very big money and international connections. They can hush it all up. The dark side of such parties has never been publicized." Yes, people are aware that there are escort services, private events, VIP meetings, but few people believe that real rituals with sacrifice can take place there. And they certainly don't want to believe that the fashionable, well-groomed sheiks we see in advertisements are capable of such things. Maria, on the other hand, is caught between a hammer and anvil. She is considered a victim, but there has been no public trial of those who massacred her. And only a week after she was found half alive, all these people were probably already organizing a new meeting somewhere in another country. And so it was Maria's fateful day. Maria, when she was found in the suburbs unconscious and broken, was not the end of the game for the criminals. Perhaps it turned out to be another failure, which they quickly swept under the rug, because almost no media hype arose. People close to the victim hoped that Maria's testimony would help to spin the chain up to the sheiks themselves. But in practice, everything was hindered at the level of national borders and acquaintances of influential persons. Official structures were not willing to quarrel with rich foreign patrons. This is how that unfortunate period of Maria Kovalchuk's life ended, but the topic of Arabian parties was not fully disclosed. While the victims are frightened or forced to keep silent, the main instigators of such sadistic rites remain at large and, quite probably, continue to recruit new girls. Now Maria is in a serious condition and no additional details have been found. That's all, friends. Put your likes, write your opinions in the comments what you think, and see you in new videos.